Welcome to Big Questions, the future of work. This is Cal Fussman. I had this feeling. You know, one of those intuitive winks that you get in your stomach, that a standing ovation would come out of this podcast. Maybe that's because I knew that one of my guests would make me and the audience see the simple act of standing up in a new light. I started Big Questions back in 2018 with early guests like Tim Ferriss and Kobe Bryant. Over the years, it went in a lot of different directions, but the arrival of artificial intelligence nudged me to evolve the podcast toward the biggest question, maybe of all. What is the future of humans and work in the age of AI? This podcast will attempt to answer that question. It will come out, as usual, every Tuesday. You'll be able to watch it on YouTube, and you'll get to know my sponsor, Moments. Moments allows companies to reward employees who do great work with trips around the world that are assembled by a team of white-glove concierges. Now, you might think, what are you doing, Cal? At a time when humans are worried that they're going to lose their jobs to AI, you got a sponsor that assists companies in rewarding their employees for great work? Exactly. This podcast is not going to examine the biggest question of all time through a lens of dark clouds and dystopia. It's about the possibility humans have to follow the wink that starts in the stomach and guides them on a path to adapt and create a better future. You know, people tend to fast forward through advertisements on podcasts, but if you saw the crowd that showed up to watch this podcast live at Moments offices in Charlotte, if you saw them looking at each other's badges and talking about them with one another, you wouldn't have wanted to fast forward. You'd have wanted to be in the room, because on each badge, a person wrote the destination they'd like to go to if they were rewarded with a bucket list trip they'd always dreamed of, a trip that came as a gift from their company in gratitude for their great work. Think about it. Where would you want to go? Wouldn't you like to imagine a free, unexpected, and memorable trip with your spouse or family? And if you're an executive, the conversations would sure make you realize how appreciated a trip like that might be for somebody who's been working hard for you. Anyway, this podcast ain't got nothing to do with doomsday. Well, it may start out with a glimpse of doomsday, but it won't end up there. In this episode, you'll hear a couple of people talk about the difficult situations they found themselves in, and a third who followed the wink in his belly that told him just which way to go and led him to $31 million and counting. There are reasons each of my guests got a standing ovation, but let me set this up right. I've spent a good chunk of my life interviewing the people who've shaped the world over the last 75 years. Often, people would ask me if there was a common thread that ran through them, a trait that I could pass on, that they could use to improve themselves. Over time, my answer has changed. And in the age of AI, it morphed again. The commonality, all those people did great work. And they all followed the wink in their stomachs that told them, go this way or go that way. That wink, that irreplaceable human instinct, is the one characteristic that AI ain't got. Those winks created some of the biggest advancements in human history. Even AI came from one of those winks. And if we follow our winks and use the AI tools at our disposal, we will be propelled forward through the times that are coming. You too may want to stand and applaud when you hear the stories of my three guests. The first comes from Simona Caton. Starts back in the 70s and early 80s in Romania. That country's dictator at the time decided to pay off all the country's foreign debts by depriving the country's population. The masses got electricity for only an hour a day. Getting milk and bread for the week meant waiting on long lines with a ration card. Imagine a 5-year-old girl having to walk alone through a forest with wild animals in Transylvania to bring back milk and bread to save her newborn sister's life. And that is just the setup to the story. Here's the thing. This podcast is sponsored by Moments. It has a white glove concierge travel desk that I asked, please take care of Simona on her trip. Whatever she needs, make it perfect. And in the end, you decided to head out with your wheelchair and make it here on your own, Ubering by yourself, which says a lot about you.
That's right, because this is the first time I am flying by myself. Usually I go with a friend or family or somebody helping me. So I decided, no more of this. So I got myself to the airport, got myself in the plane, I got myself here, and I decided to take an Uber. It wasn't easy, I'm telling you guys, it wasn't easy, because when I picked the Uber, I picked the highest Uber that I could possibly pick, because I thought in my head, I need to put my wheelchair somewhere where it doesn't have to be disassembled, right? So I picked the highest one, and then I couldn't get in the damn car. So
you know what? Next time, go with the white glove concierge desk at Moments. Please, Simona.
Okay. But the moral of the story is I made it.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to go straight to the point, because you've had some moments in your life that not many people could even fathom.
Right.
Now, can you just explain the time period and what it was like to live in Romania just at that time, so that everybody could understand what you were asked to do at age 5?
So Romania at the time, and this is early 70s, was a country where there's no food, no electricity, no water. We used to have 1 hour of water a day, 1 hour of electricity a day. I was a 5-year-old going to sleep in the middle of winters, all dressed up, all bundled up, because it was cold and there was no heat. So when my mom came home after she gave birth to my sister, Dana, her body couldn't produce milk, but there was no formula, nowhere to buy. So my mom thought, what am I going to do? I have a 5-year-old and I have a baby. I have to pick between the two. What am I going to do here? So I had to bring milk in the house somehow for my sister to survive, because there was no formula, nowhere. Babies were, and if you study the history of Romania, lots of infants died from starvation because there was no formula. So my mom bundled me up early in the morning. Of course, my sister was born in the middle of December. I mean, really? Could you have not been born in summertime? No. One of the worst winters of the centuries. My mom bundled me up. She gave me the card where, with that card, you could go to the store and get milk and bread. Only that, you just punch the card and you get 1 liter or 1 gallon of milk for the whole entire week, and that was it. So my mom said, you are the only person in this house that can do this, because my father was working nights and he had to provide for the family. So I did. A 5-year-old, that was my first time when I put something in my head, like a goal in my head. I knew that I have a responsibility of a baby sister, and I had to go and get the milk.
And this means walking like 1.5 miles through the forest in Transylvania, filled
in the middle
with
of
wolves.
the winter, with wild animals in the middle of, because we live in a village. I had to walk 1 mile in snow to get to the store, punch the card so I can get milk for my sister. I was 5. But I believe that was what shaped me in what I am today, to be honest. That trip in the middle of December.
And afterward, you were a voracious reader, and you decided that you wanted to be an engineer. And you became an engineer. And that took you to the United States. And you had a couple of twins. You had twins, right?
I have twins. I have 2 girls, twins. I raised them by myself in United States. When I came to United States, I probably spoke like a 5-year-old. English was not my first language. Obviously, English is not my first language, so I apologize because I probably do grammar mistakes. But I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to do something interesting with my life. And United States gave me this opportunity to do what my own country didn't give me. And that's how I became an engineer.
And it also enabled you to meet Mr. Right in your life.
Yes, and I met Mr. Right in my life, not the father of my children.
But this is like a Brady Bunch situation.
Yes, it
you
is.
had 2 kids.
Yeah, he had 2 kids.
You got together.
And we got together and we spent the most wonderful 7 years, and wonderful years. And then he died.
Well, what happened is he basically had a stroke. He had a stroke.
He was a young. He had a stroke. So he died in front of me, and that was. Lots of people cannot get up from that because it's an enormous pain when you find your soulmate and he decides to die in front of you. So then what do? I had my kids to take care of, and I had his kids to take care of because I was the closest person to their father, to the person that was closest to their heart. So I had to embrace 4 children at once, and I did the best I could to make sure that they are going to be fine, all 4 of them. So the pain that I had to kind of separate it in my heart or put it somewhere in my heart because I couldn't let myself collapse in front of 4 children. And that's what got me to the next adventure of my life.
Well, I was going to get there. Because you had a lot of grief.
A lot of grief.
You were probably not being able to let out because so much of your time was taken up taking care of the kids. And you're working still, correct?
Yes, I had a career. I couldn't give up on my career. So I had to do something to release that dark energy that was building up in me. And I had 2 choices.
Where did that take you?
I had 2 choices, rock climbing or racing. And in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, racing sounds a little bit too extreme. And I decided to go rock climbing. And I loved the sport. Being an engineer, I saw rock climbing as a problem solving on the wall, math on the wall, physics on the wall. And as an engineer, I became extremely good at it. In a couple of years, I was able to give lessons to people. I was that good. But I also think that my brain just wanted an escape, and that was it. Rock climbing was my escape. I loved the sport. I had passion for the sport. It was my second love of my life. Then the guy who died was my first. The rock climbing was my second.
And what happened is you went on a vacation. And you came back and you were so excited to get back to the wall.
Yes.
That you went straight to it after the vacation.
I went straight to it, and I did not, I was, even 3 days of vacation, I was missing rock climbing. I was in vacation, having fun, and in my head it was all about, let me go back to that wall. Let me solve another problem. And when I came back to to rock climbing, and then in that excitement of going back, I forgot to hook my harness on. So I climbed, and I don't know if any of you know Alex Hano. There's the guy who climbed. I know him. He's an amazing individual. He's one of the most humble people I've known in my life. I climbed with no harness all the way up to like 50 feet high. I didn't realize I had no harness. I thought the harness will catch me, but the harness never did.
So you're just falling, thinking the harness is going to catch you.
I fell thinking the harness is going to catch me. The harness is going to catch me, but the harness never did because I had no harness. That's what happened. The belayer didn't notice that I had no harness. I didn't know I had no harness. It was just a series of bad events. And unfortunately, I don't know, there is a saying, I am terrible with expression in English, by the way, horrible. Anyway, I dropped on the floor, and this is where I am now.
When the doctors first looked at you, what did they say?
Oh, they told me I will never walk again. They clearly said this is not something that you're going to get out of it ever. You're paralyzed from the waist down, is what it is. So I said to myself and to the doctors, there's no way. I am going to find a way to walk again. It might not happen today, it might not happen tomorrow, it might happen in 100 years, I don't care. I'm going to walk again. And that's what I told the doctor, that I'm going to walk again.
Afterward, you go home, you're in the wheelchair now, and it's a completely new life.
Yes.
Now, this is where my mind goes to what people might be thinking if they lost their job because of AI and you're alone at home and you're going to be feeling depressed.
Yep.
What enabled you to hit the light switch in your head to say, you know what, I'm going to do the best thing I've ever done in my life at this point?
I mean, I couldn't sit in my house and do nothing. I had so much life in me. My entire life I was like this, starting with the story of being a 5-year-old and make it through the snow. I think there is something in you that tells you you have to keep going no matter what, no matter how hard it is. If you decide that you're going to make it in this life, you have choices. You can say, I'm sitting in the house and I'm going to sit in a corner and cry for the next 30 years, or I have to do something about it. Once you make this decision, then you take it and you go with it because there is no other option. And that's what I felt sitting in the house, being in a wheelchair. I have to get out. I have to. So I did.
Where does that take you? You were working inside a company.
I worked for a company, and I built from ground zero a brand new business within a business like this in a wheelchair because I think my head said, I have to do something spectacular now. I'm already in a wheelchair. What else is there? So I did. I went back to the company that hired me, and I went to our leader, and I proposed an idea. And the leader said, okay, here is nothing. Do it, pretty much. If you want to do it, I give you 6 months, do it. 2.5 years later, this business that I built is bringing hundreds of millions of dollars in the company because I had the guts to do it. I did not stop thinking, oh, this is hard. Oh, I have nothing. Oh, my gosh. I mean, who are you to do this? Every day I woke up and I said, nope, there is a way to do it. And that's the message.
That message really applies because you created this company and then you got a phone call from Europe.
Yes.
Saying, you know what, we have an idea here.
So this company from Germany calls me and they say, look, we have this set of braces that may help you to walk again. What did I say about I will never give up on walking? And I said, yeah, I'm interested. Let me see what these braces are about. So they came first time, they showed me the braces first time, and they were like, they didn't work. They didn't work. The first time they put them on me, they didn't work. And then the second, and then the guy, the German guy, stubborn German guy, said, there is no way. These braces are fantastic braces, are going to work. Came back 6 months later with a prototype, custom made for one of my legs. That's the first time I got that brace on. And sure thing, I stepped on a damn brace. I don't walk. I don't feel my legs. Those braces made me literally step. 2 steps. It doesn't matter. You think it's funny. It's like 2 steps. What the hell is that? For me, 2 steps is like an infinity of steps.
Do you think with all the latest technology, I would imagine AI is part of this?
Yes. Those braces are microprocessors. They have microprocessors inside the braces that they recognize small movements at my knees, so they won't let me buckle. So what I'm saying is this technology, if these braces were not even the most the fanciest on the earth, are working for me, imagine what the AI technology can do for people like me who are stuck in a sense, right? So I embrace the AI technology. I can't wait for this technology to show up with something even better. Put a chip in my head. I don't care. Put it in my brain. If that makes me walk, I am not opposed to it. Because I was like you guys. I mean, I didn't know that this can be possible. When something like this happens, you will do whatever it takes.
You know, I want to just close with something you told me about not being able to stand up and what that does to a mind. Is there something that you can explain to everybody in this room who can stand about what it's like when you can and how much it makes you want to do anything you can in order to stand again?
Right, because I'm a leader in the company, and I have a lot of people report to me. And some in the morning, they come depressed or angry or whatever, something happened in their family. And what I tell them usually, I say, get up. Can you get up? Can you just stand up? Oh, of course I can. Go to the window and watch the sunset or the sunrise. Can you do that? Yes, I can. Well, I can't. So then put it in perspective. The simple task of standing up is amazing. For you, is routine. For me, is an amazing thing that happens. So I keep saying, be grateful for what you have, because you never know. You know, so that's what I tell my people. Compared to me, you are 10 times better. So look at it as, be thankful for that. Be thankful for that. But that's the message, right? I can't do that, but I will.
So already got a standing ovation up on the mezzanine.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I wish I could stand up. Next time. Thank you.
Here's the amazing thing about my next guest. She inspired Simona. Her name is Lisa DeMarco, and she followed a wing to move from New York to North Carolina after a career in publicity. When she discovered Charlotte, she knew. She stepped up and created something I'd never seen before. Gallery 51 at the top of Charlotte. Anyone who's feeling caught up in the vice of AI can follow her ascent by leveraging AI to get to a new and passionate place. Lisa was inspiring to Simona because Simona longs to build a gym for paralyzed people. As she watched Lisa, she knew all she has to do is follow Lisa's path up. What Lisa is doing goes way beyond an art gallery. First time I stepped inside it, I recognized it instantly. It's all about forming connections. It was kind of like what led me to meet the owner of Moments, Ben Levenbaum. That's him introducing me to the crowd at his office. We'd never have known each other if we hadn't met through an organization called Crew that brings CEOs and C-suite executives together. One of Ben's employees introduced us to Lisa, and Lisa's blueprint for Gallery 51 is going to introduce other CEOs who might never have met and will no doubt do great things together. This all gets to human connection, but it's powered by the tools of AI. There's an amazing mural that was created with the help of AI that makes visitors to Gallery 51 believe they're actually on a slide down from the tallest building in the city. For any human artist who's about to get into a lather about AI taking over art, listen up. The works in the gallery are all human and handmade. I personally saw the grateful expression on an artist's face as he told me how Lisa had sold his work for more money than he'd ever gotten for his work before. But again, this is way more than about art. As you'll see, it's about all the connections that are going to come out of Gallery 51 and what you might be capable of if you followed the energy behind Lisa's wink. See for yourself. What was it that gave you the idea to do this? Because you were not in this space before.
I was not in this space. I was an art collector almost my whole life. I lived in New York, and I always knew that I would relocate to North Carolina when the time came, when my children were ready to leave home. And I have a son who is 26 and was moving to Tampa for work, and my daughter is a high school history teacher, and she had moved out of the house. And I knew that I was in the second phase of my career, and I had been a publicist for many, many years in all different areas, healthcare and technology. And I had suffered a brain injury in a car accident about 6.5 years ago. And I knew that I did not fit in healthcare anymore because I was recognizing some of my symptoms. I had been in a car accident. I was at a red light and I got hit from behind, and I thought, all right, this isn't so bad. And I took the seatbelt off to get my phone, and the car that hit me was hit. And I struck my head, and I had a brain bleed, and it was just awful. But that was the beginning for me of, I'm not going to settle for status quo anymore. I had decided that once I was better and I was feeling up to it, I was going to make sure that my life felt very meaningful. And it was always very meaningful as a mom, and as, I had a great career. But it was time for me as my children got older to do something that felt even more impactful. So I always knew that I would move to North Carolina, and I assumed it was going to be a more coastal area because I am a kayaker, but also competitively, I race kayaks. And so I assumed that I was going to be by the water. And when I started looking around to build, I realized that I was going to be very bored in those coastal towns. And I panicked, and I flew back to New York, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. This was always what I assumed the rest of my life would be like, and I had figured I would keep all of my clients and continue to just work remotely as a publicist. And a few people said, you have to try Charlotte. And I had never been to Charlotte, and I didn't know anybody in Charlotte. So a few days later, I got on a flight, and I came to Charlotte. And immediately I said, this is where I want to be. And so I moved about a month later, right into the city. I live in uptown Charlotte.
Did you know you were going to start a gallery at that point?
I did not. I always thought maybe a wine bar, I wanted it to be a collaborative space. But as an art collector, in my mind, when I thought of art galleries, I thought of somewhere stuffy and cold. And it wasn't until October of last year, and I was on a trip in Copenhagen, and I was visiting all of the galleries, that I realized that art did not necessarily have to be stuffy and cold. There was a way to create a space that was unique and different, and I was going to come back to the United States, and I was going to search for that. And at first, I looked for unique spaces like airline hangars and firehouses. I was really looking for something to set the gallery apart.
But you'd never done anything like this before.
I had never done anything like this before, but as a publicist, I was a connector. And my goal for the gallery was not just to create a space for art, but to create a space for collaboration. And when I moved to Charlotte, I recognized two things right away. The first, and it's what brought me here, was the culture and art were just, it's such a thriving city. And then also, there's just booming enterprise and commerce, and everywhere you look, there is business and opportunity. But I recognized that there was a little bit of a disconnect between the thriving arts community and the booming enterprise. And that's not a criticism whatsoever of Charlotte. In fact, it is quite common in cities that are growth markets, as Charlotte is. And so immediately I recognized that there was opportunity, and I needed to figure out what that opportunity was and what I could do to leverage it.
But you got no experience.
Well, I have experience as a connector and experience as being in the role that I was in for so many years for different companies, recognizing where the opportunity was. And so I knew that in order to create what my vision was, I needed to set it apart. And I couldn't just start an art gallery that was going to be no different than what existed already, because there are plenty in Charlotte. And so I decided to take it up high. So I brought it 51 stories above the Queen City to the tallest building I could find, and I launched the gallery in the penthouse February 1st of this year.
We saw the photos of the empty apartment, and then it just began filling. Like, how do you do that without much experience in very little time?
So the concept was clear, and the vision was clear, and the strategy was clear, but the path was unclear to me. And I often joke and I say, when I don't know, I know a guy who does know. ChatGPT. I know a guy. ChatGPT was, and I don't know if you caught it, in the beginning of this clip, there was 2 slides that actually had all of my ChatGPT queries. And the queries were, how do I, and where do I, and how might I? And what I asked ChatGPT to do was to act as if he was a successful gallery curator and a C-suite alliance collaborator. And everything I did was through that lens. And so my goal was not just to create an art gallery, it was to create a space where creativity and collaboration and communication could exist in a very meaningful way. And so alongside Gallery 51, which was appropriately named, right, 51 floors, was C-Suite 51, which I am in the process of launching. C-Suite 51 brings together 51 of Charlotte's companies that are that have C-Suite members or founders of organizations that are on track to be large, well-known, recognized businesses and enterprises here in Charlotte. And it's membership-based, and that's really how the revenue is driven, through the gallery. But most importantly, bringing these members together 3 times per month, one for a breakfast, one for a social hour, and one for a Michelin star-aligned dinner, exposes the artists to individuals and enterprises with resources. So I like to say that in the gallery, we tell 51 stories above the Queen City. 50 of those stories belong to artists. The 51st story belongs to the gallery. And we tell that each week in the form of a podcast called The 51st Story, where I bring together one well-known artist and one captain of industry from Charlotte to have a conversation, find meaningful ground, and find opportunity to come together and tell their story. What inspires them? What do they hope they're going to do next? What could they potentially do together? And it gives each of them the opportunity to talk a little bit, gives them a platform, about what their unique goals are as individuals, as a business, as an artist, in meaningful ways that they may not have had the opportunity to do outside of Gallery 51, which is also a media studio.
Could it have been done without AI?
Could it have been done without AI? Probably. Would it have taken far longer? Absolutely. So I leverage AI to create a path forward. But at the same time, it creates opportunity, not just for the artists who I work with and for the enterprises in Charlotte. It creates opportunity for people to come together to do business better, to collaborate, to determine what they can do together in ways that maybe they would not have had the chance to sit down, similar to, being in a room you and Ben would not have met if it wasn't for Crew. Many of these individuals wouldn't meet if it wasn't for the gallery. And it's a unique space. It's 51 stories above this city. And at night, the view is magnificent. During the day, it's just stunning. The sunrise is spectacular. And I create different experiences and opportunities. One of the things that I did in the gallery with the help of AI was what I call the slide into Charlotte. It is something that I used AI to create. So in an effort to bring together the enterprise in Charlotte and commerce and business with the culture and the arts community, I asked AI to envision a slide that looked virtual, obviously, and went from the balcony into the city of Charlotte. And on this slide, on the way down, you would imagine seeing the buildings, Truist, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, the stadiums, Bank of America, the Spectrum Center, and then the arts. So the Mint Museum, Blumenthal, the Discovery Center. What I wanted to create was a vision of collaboration and community between the two. And I kind of went back and forth with AI a little bit, and no, I want this to be a little more dimensional, and eventually I was happy with what I found, and I was able to give that to an artist who created the vision and brought it to life. And that's something that I could not have done without the help of AI. And that brought so many different businesses from the community into the gallery and created opportunity for collaboration between so many of them, but also between the artists, and gave the artists an opportunity. And Cal, you joined us for the event when we had launched the slide. So we had a lot of different opportunities that came just from that one AI query.
I can't wait 5 years from now to see where all this work you're putting in goes. It seems like you're going to connect people just like I was connected to Ben and make a lot of lives better.
That's the goal.
Thank
you. Opportunity.
Can we get a standing O for Lisa? Yeah. All right. Thank you. And guess what? Lisa was inspired by our next guest, Spencer Luders. He started out with a wink, and a borrowed bicycle and took it to a place in Charlotte to create an experience that he'll tell you is absolutely crazy. So maybe we need a little of that in these times. Maybe that's the spirit that can help bring humans together at a time when so many people feel isolated. Spencer is the founder of 24 Hours of Booty. I told you this is a little crazy, but you know what? I'm just going to let Spencer take it from here. You wore a sweater, but you got a great tattoo under there.
Where is it, Cal? You want to see?
Are you able to? Able to show? I want you to tell this.
There's part of it right there.
I want you to tell this story.
Okay. So I've had a couple wink in the stomach. I've never heard that phrase before, by the way, but I have had two that were important to me. And one of them relates to this. This is a weeping willow tree branch right here. And the reason that's important to me is back when I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and I was 5 years old. I remember that because it was 1976, and it was the bicentennial. And my dad and I were walking in this field behind our house that it had been clear cut for a shopping center being put in. So it's a completely dirt field. And so we're just walking back there on the field, and I look over, and I see a weeping willow tree branch on the ground, and it has green leaves on it. But there's no trees around. It's just a branch there in the dirt, just laying on top of the dirt. So I remember looking at my dad and saying, "Dad, if we put this branch in the ground, do you think it would grow into a big tree?" And my dad looks down at me and he says these exact words. He says, "You know, Spencer, it's so crazy, it just might work. So crazy, it just might work." So we walked back to the house and stuck that branch into the ground to see what would happen, just to be curious. So that started my journey of being sort of curious and trying things without knowing what's going to happen. And so that is part of the genesis story of 24 Hours of Booty.
What happened?
So the booty loop, I did not name the booty loop.
What about happened to the tree?
Oh. Well, so I'll come back to that in a second. But so the booty loop has been called the booty loop before I even lived in Charlotte. I moved here in '99. It'd been the booty loop. So I was into cycling, and I was riding on the booty loop just like everybody else does. I was told to go down there so everyone runs and rides, been there forever. So I'm riding on the booty loop one day, and I was contemplating cancer. I had been reading the stats, and they were terrible. It was, at the time, it was 1 in 2 men, 1 in 3 people overall will be diagnosed. And I'm like, it hasn't been in my family yet, but what can I do? Like, I want to make something happen. And so I remember exactly where I was in the booty loop, and I thought, no one's ridden this thing for 24 hours before. And I don't know if I can do it, but I want to ride for 24 hours and call it 24 Hours a Week. That's hilarious to me. Like, so I'm coming up this hill on the booty loop, contemplating that, and not knowing if I can do it. And that phrase, "it's so crazy, it just might work," came back into my head. And I thought about that branch, which had grown into a gigantic tree, bigger than my house. So I thought, maybe there's something here, right? And that was one of those winks in the stomach, and I was like, okay, I got to do this. So I go home, tell my wife, and she goes, "You're crazy." And I'm like, I know, but it's so crazy, it just might work. So set off to do this thing, and I didn't have a bike at the time. I had not trained for this. I didn't have a permit. I didn't have permission. I just said, you know what, I'm just going to put this out there. So
We got some video of you from that night.
Hey.
One down.
One down. All right. Woo. One lap. Let's see here. They probably got about 23 hours and 45 minutes to go.
The early days were kind of hilarious with the name 24 Hours of Booty, but it really caught people's attention.
It is a 24-hour party for the cancer community.
It's the greatest fundraising bike ride
ever.
Booty supports men, women, children, all types of cancer.
It's a really healing, cathartic, and an amazing community that just kind of came out of the woodwork.
Not only community, but a great big reunion. Every year I see people that I've seen for the last 10, 15 years.
Thought it was a cycling event, but it's kind of a cycling event disguised in a community gathering of people that have cancer.
It has become basically hope and healing for 24 hours, and I didn't know that was going to happen. And so once that was revealed to me, I'm like, okay, we have to figure out how to make this happen for real and make it a thing for people.
Yeah.
Hey. There you go. So you just saw him start off on that first lap, and it was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And you have now raised
$31 million. Yeah.
And where is all the money going?
It stays right here in Charlotte. We fund cancer navigation and survivorship services. So what those are, when you get diagnosed, it's deer in the headlights, and then you think, how am I going to live through this? And then if you get through treatment, how do I get my life back? So cancer navigators are people who literally take you by the hand, and they make sure you get to all your treatments. They get you in the right trials. They make sure you have everything you need. And then survivorship services, we fund about 60 of them that resonate with people differently to get their strength back, mental, spiritual, your life back in order, get your strength, everything back. And so those are helping people today. We can go up to the Levine Cancer Institute right now, and people are not probably now, but they were using them today. They'll use them tomorrow and the next day. So it's real brick and mortar stuff. Like, research is important, but I had this feeling of, I want to do something today. I want to help people today. And so those things help people today. And that's been our mission from the get-go. And a couple $1 million a year makes a huge difference locally, because these aren't really covered by insurance. So that's what we do. And it makes a huge difference. Thousands of people impacted.
When you took that first lap, you were an attorney.
I still am. Recovering, but I still am. I still am, yeah.
But you shifted. It seems like 24 Hours of Booty shifted your life. You went with that wink, and you just kept on going.
Yeah. The second real wink happened during that first ride. So, imagine I'm this bike rider. I'm thinking about all the what's, like, what gear am I in? How much clothes do I have on? Is my cadence right? Am I drinking enough fluids? All these things, the what's and what's and what. So I'm just riding along, and some people come and go, friends of mine, make sure I'm okay. But in the middle of the ride, actually this happened throughout the full 24 hours. Imagine this. So I'm riding on the Booty Loop by myself, and I see someone, a bike rider, sitting in a driveway up ahead of me. Ride by, I wave, and they catch up to me. And they say, "Hey, are you the guy riding for 24 hours? I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Hey, I'm John. I'm a cancer survivor. Can I ride a lap with you?" I'm like, "Yes." And so we would ride a lap together. And then later on, Sarah came, and she was a cancer survivor. And then Chip came, who lost his wife to cancer and wanted to ride a lap with me and share their stories with me. So this why of what this event is came to me from cancer survivors in the cancer community during the ride and hit me like a ton of bricks. And at the end of this 24-hour period, that wink had happened. I'm like, okay, I don't know how to run a nonprofit. I don't know how to put on events, but this has to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it has to happen. And so it happened. It kept happening, and here we are 25 years later.
What is there to say about pivoting into a new place to anybody who is looking at this whole AI revolution with a feeling in their stomach that is not a wink, but is fear? What would you tell them about what they can do based on everything you've been able to create with the 24 Foundation?
Yeah. Well, two things come to mind. Is that curious mindset in trying things. If you don't know what's going to happen, still try it. I think is important. But the other thing, and you can hear it on that video, and there's so many people in that video that have incredible cancer stories, it's about community and connection. And I'm not really sure what's going to happen with AI and the workforce in the future, but I know that we humans crave and need connection and community. So I don't even think about the fundraising. I think about community. All I do is just pour it back into the community and keep building the community, and then the rest of it takes care of itself. So I would say look for connection to other people, to other humans. As we move forward into this crazy world of AI and the future of work, find a way to stay connected to people.
Well, there you go. I think for anybody listening to this podcast a long way away, they can come to 24 Hours of Booty if they want to ride with you. It's in July, correct? Mm-hmm. And they can take that advice because it's going to apply to anybody who is looking at a pivot. And I think all three of our guests have shown what is possible simply by following that wink. When you started, you probably couldn't have imagined any of this, could you have?
No, but boy, it's been incredible. Well, I mean, so much money raised, so many people impacted. That's an honor, to be honest.
It's an honor to talk with you, and I know this guy deserves a standing ovation. Let's give it up for Spencer. To sum it up, you can overcome doomsday if you think like Simona. AI can help you if you have the guts to follow your wink and try something new like Lisa. And think of how many people a single human can touch by doing something as simple as pedaling on a bicycle around and around and around and following every wink that came his way over the next quarter century. This podcast is going to be the one place you can come to when you're tired of the dark clouds and talk of doomsday. You'll be getting ideas from people who are using AI to get the most out of themselves and hearing advice that I don't really hear anywhere else. So I hope to see you again at Big Questions with Cal Fussman and on this YouTube channel. Subscribe, and it'll come to you every Tuesday. And until next Tuesday, pay attention to the wink.